The Viltrumites, one of the most powerful race in the Invincible comic and TV series, are loosely based on the Kryptonians from DC Comics. They also share similarities with the Saiyans from the Dragon Ball franchise. Stay tuned because today we are doing a deep dive into this powerful race, detailing everything you need to know about them, including similarities to one particular franchise that some of you may be familiar with: Transformers. So, without further ado, the Viltrumites are an ancient and powerful race of humanoid aliens from the planet Viltrum. They are a highly advanced and militaristic society with a rigid social hierarchy and a deep-seated belief in their superiority over other species. Their physical prowess, extended lifespan, and ability to fly make them formidable opponents in combat, further solidifying their dominance in the galaxy. And yes, the Viltrumites share similarities with Kryptonians from the DC Comics and Saiyans from the Dragon Ball franchise, being that they are powerful, planet-conquering, human-like races well known for their trademark characteristics, their tails and their mustaches. Their races can also create offspring with other races, and those hybrid children can become just as powerful, if not more powerful, than their full-blooded parents. They also share very interesting similarities with the Transformers franchise, specifically Decepticons. The 1986 film Transformers the Movie showed a scene where the Decepticons dumped out their own warriors in space who were all weakened from a battle, and the survivors fought for supremacy for leadership, similar to the Great Purge the Viltrumites had. Both species' lifespan goes about hundreds to thousands of years. They also live in advanced planets and have technology and resources that far exceeds Earth's technology. Both worlds were ravaged by their own species' war. Similar to the Viltrumites expanding their armies, a cartoon series that ran from 2007 to 2009, Transformers Animated, mentioned and showed the Decepticons widespreading their armies across the galaxy. Following the return of their leader who was supposedly deceased, the Decepticons established a galaxy-wide attack on all outposts of their enemies and nearly conquered the galaxy. Speaking of conquering galaxies, at the core of Viltrumite society is their strict adherence to a code of conquest and expansion. They view themselves as the rightful rulers of the cosmos, believing it is their duty to conquer and assimilate other civilizations for the greater good of the universe. They believe those with strength are worthy of living and will not hesitate to subjugate entire planets, species, or outright annihilate them if they see them as weak. This mindset serves as a driving force behind their actions, leading them to engage in brutal conflicts with other alien races and to seek out planets to subjugate. This led them, as stated by Nolan, to purge the weak from their society in what would be known as the Great Purge in an attempt to create a perfect civilization. This resulted in their population being cut in half but produced strong, formidable fighters. This led to the Viltrum expansion campaign, where they began conquering planets to expand their empire. Throughout the series, individual Viltrumites exhibit a wide range of personalities, motivations, and moral compasses, adding depth and complexity to their portrayal. Thrag, Anissa, and Nolan Grayson, Omniman, exemplify this diversity, each embodying different aspects of Viltrumite culture. That being said, there are rare cases of Viltrumites developing compassion and love for what considered to be lesser races. One such Viltrumite, Nolan, developed feelings of love for his human wife and hybrid son, and by extension humanity, after spending decades protecting Earth, although he attempted to deny this. Unfortunately, this did not stop him from killing anyone who got in his way. One of the most complicated aspects of the Viltrumites is their moral ambiguity, which serves as a recurring theme throughout the Invincible series. While the Viltrumites are initially presented as antagonistic conquerors, the narrative gradually peels back the layers of their society, revealing the internal conflicts and moral dilemmas faced by individual Viltrumite characters. This moral complication is shown a lot through characters like Thrag, a ruthless and uncompromising leader who embodies the most extreme aspects of Viltrumite ideology. Thrag's unwavering commitment to Viltrumite supremacy and his willingness to resort to extreme measures to ensure the survival of his species make him a formidable and morally complex antagonist. We also see this complex emotion develop in characters like Nolan Grayson and his son, Mark Grayson, Invincible, as they challenge the traditional Viltrumite ethos, grappling with their own sense of morality and the ethical implications of their actions. Through their internal struggles and conflicts with other Viltrumites, we see the inherent tension between individual morality and cultural indoctrination within the Viltrumite society. Due to their prideful and supremacist nature, they have low tolerance for genetically imperfect Viltrumites and thus are only allowed to procreate with genetically similar species, such as humans, which is why they tend to give hybrid Viltrumites a chance to prove themselves worthy of being a part of the Viltrum Empire by form of combat. And if they can best a pure Viltrumite, then they will be assigned a planet to conquer for the Empire. What's interesting about Viltrumite physiology is that their race have extremely potent and developed genetics. Some time ago, they started a civil war among their own people to eradicate weakness from their population as mentioned before. And while this greatly diminished their numbers, it also meant that the remaining Viltrumites were the strongest of their people. The incredible adaptability of their genome and strength of their genetics means that they can breed with a wide variety of races. If the race they couple with is compatible enough, the Viltrumite genes will start taking over the genome of the hybrid offspring while giving them access to Viltrumite abilities. While Viltrumite genes will overshadow the non-Viltrumite portions of their hybrid children if the species they mated with was compatible enough. Greater compatibility means the hybrid will become closer to a full-blooded Viltrumite. Humans, for example, are so close to Viltrumites genetically that a human/Viltrumite hybrid is genetically almost the same as a full-blooded Viltrumite and with time will become just as powerful. Let's talk biology. Viltrumites have incredible superhuman strength that make them one of the most powerful species and are almost impossible to defeat. The average Viltrumite has enough strength to lift billions of tons. The upper limit is unknown as some Viltrumites are stronger than others. They are nigh invulnerable and are able to withstand colossal amounts of force and/or power that could greatly harm or even kill other beings, and are unaffected by many things including sequids. They can break the sound barrier and are able to fight and move for extended periods of time without collapsing from exhaustion. Nolan was able to overhear a conversation between Debbie Grayson and Art Rosenbaum from outside a building and sense an invisible soldier. During his morning outing in a city, Mark was able to hear an ambulance from high in the sky. Viltrumites also have a lung capacity to hold their breath for weeks at a time. They have regenerative healing factor, which simply means enhanced healing, allowing them to quickly recover from injuries. According to Nolan, the older Viltrumites get, the slower they age. This allows them to have an incredibly long lifespan, able to live for thousands of years, and are able to freely move through physical space. Nolan said that flying is like using a muscle. This ability doesn't seem to be influenced by the gravity of planets, as Nolan and Mark were able to fly in extraterrestrial planets in space. Viltrumite DNA is so pure that Mark, a half-Viltrumite half-human hybrid, is nearly a full-blooded Viltrumite, and they adapt constantly and get stronger when either pushed to the brink of death and heal or fight someone on their level. Viltrumites adapt very quickly, whether it be magical or energy-based attacks or learning their opponent's movements and attack sequence. Now, it's only fair we dive into their weaknesses. You may be wondering, if they purge their race of any weakness, then they have no weakness. Not necessarily. One of their weaknesses is what makes them one of the strongest among races, so they aren't completely unstoppable. Viltrumites can be harmed by beings of similar or greater strength. They can also be harmed by psychological instability or disorders. Viltrumites as a culture are extremely stunted emotionally and spiritually. They focus only on the pragmatic and logical through a very Darwinistic mindset. This in turn has given them almost a cult-like mentality toward their people, world, and the way of the Viltrumite. However, Nolan repeatedly hints at this being primarily the result of having to live for so long and see so many others and civilizations fall into ruin that the weight of being practically immortal is in fact a serious burden psychologically. Their cold and callous nature seems to be a coping mechanism, and the active effort to shun emotions and personal connection being a way to protect themselves from emotional pain and trauma. Tellingly, it's when Nolan starts to live on Earth among people so similar to his own, but also exhibiting a full range of emotions, along with finding a woman and having a son that truly love him and value him, is what brings about Nolan changing from the cold, indifferent soldier he was and into a genuine father and husband. When he starts to actively attack Earth, he shows many hints of uneasiness and sadness. It isn't until he fights his son Mark and how Mark tells him that he isn't alone and that they would still have each other even 500 years after Mark's mother died and their friends were gone that something inside Nolan broke. For the first time in centuries, Nolan understood how it felt to be genuinely loved and cared about, and the weight of what he had just thrown away for the sake of an empire that neither loved nor cared about him filled him with deep agony and remorse. Choosing instead to fly away and abandon his mission than destroy more of what he cherished for his cold and callous people. Excessively high frequency is another weakness for the Viltrumites. The detrimental effects of high-frequency underwater noise on Mark have been demonstrated through empirical evidence obtained from underwater combat scenarios. I think the Viltrumites serves as a catalyst for exploring themes such as identity, loyalty, and the nature of power. Characters like Mark Grayson and his half-brother, Oliver, grapple with their dual heritage as half-human, half-Viltrumite, which creates not only internal conflicts but personal growth as they navigate their place in the world. The Viltrumites also forced the series to confront the consequences of unchecked power and the ethical implications of using that power to impose one's will on others. This is exemplified in the clash between the Viltrumites and their adversaries, as well as in the internal power struggles within Viltrumite society itself. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also comment down below any fun facts you know about the Viltrumites. Thanks for watching. Peace.